Kenyatta has announced sweeping changes in the police service, and now they will no longer be called regular or administration police as we know them today, but general duty officers.
Today, direct the Cabinet Secretary of the Ministry of Interior, the Inspector General, the National Police Service to proceed as follows. 1. We must eliminate overlap and duplication in reporting functions to reorganize the National Police Service command structure in conformity with the National Police Act of 2011, and to assign specific and distinct functions to the Deputy Inspector Generals and the Director of Criminal Investigations. 2. The Deputy Inspector General, Kenya Police Service, will now focus on public safety and security. The Deputy Inspector General, Administration Police Service, will from today focus on protective and border security, as well as combating cattle rustling and banditry. The Director of Criminal Investigations, the DCI, shall focus on criminal investigations. 3. In order to eliminate waste, duplication, and overlap, we will integrate 39,680 Kenya Police Service and 24,572 Administration Police into General Duty Police Officers under the command of the Deputy Inspector General, Kenya Police Service.
Now, following the changes announced yesterday, 12 senior police positions have been abolished in a move ahead of state says that will ensure a lean and effective chain of command.
Eliminate overlap and duplication in parallel and lateral commands. The following positions where they existed are abolished. And these are: 1. The Administration Police Service Regional Commander. 2. The Kenya Police Service Regional Commander. 3. The Director of Criminal Investigation Regional Commander. 4. The County Coordinating Commander. 5. The Kenya Police Service County Commander. 6. The Administration Police Service County Commander. 7. The Directorate of Criminal Investigation County Commander. 8. The Administration Police Service Sub-County Commander. 9. The Directorate of Criminal Investigation Sub-County Commander. 10. The Kenya Police Service Officer Commanding Police Division, OCPD. 11. The District Administration Police Commander, DAPC. And 12. The Administration Police Service Ward Commander.
All right, and well, those are some of the things that have been happening this week, and a quick reintroduction of the guests that I have here this morning to discuss the week that was. We have Honorable Joe Mutambu, who's a former Member of Parliament from Wingi Central, Mark Bichachi, who's a communications strategist and consultant, last but not least, Philip Magal, who's an advocate. And we dive straight in. Let's start with the reforms, and I'll start with you, Mark Bichachi. I'll avoid asking you about the uniforms because I know you'll tell me that's non-essential. There are more serious things to discuss other than the color that the police are adorned. But we cannot ignore the fact that there is that change. And of course, the question that many will be asking and wondering is whether that's a kind of reform that we're looking forward to. And, well, your comments.
Well, interestingly, I think the uniforms are grotesque, but...
Well, they say blue is the color of power.
I don't
beg to differ.
That particular blue is a 2-year-old's effort at painting the sky, but that's not essential. What is key to me is this. The making the police force lean, making the command structure efficient, for me makes sense, because we had a lot of duplication before, and we saw sometimes your case will be taken here and then to another office, and then it was very confusing. So that I commend them for. However, they've not addressed the issue of what is the morality and ethos and guiding principle of the police officer. So we've changed his uniform, we've changed who he reports to, but have we changed how he will behave in traffic when he stops us for overspeeding?
The question might be, how do we change that? Because maybe we have started from a direction of changing that by virtue of the fact that now he's got allowance, what do you call it, house allowance. Yes. So he maybe is living in a more decent environment, and as a result, hopefully, would be able to now, churn that out differently.
People do not stop being greedy on account of being fat. Okay, it is not how much fat you've become that will stop you from being greedy. And that's the mistake we make. How many times have we seen politicians who are billionaires steal another billion? So the pay is not what is going to address the issue with the police. We need to address the morality of the general police service, just the same way as we need to address the morality of all Kenyans. And how do we do that? We need to look at the guiding philosophies and principles we have as a country. You see, when Moi was there, we had a rather selfish one for the Nyayo philosophy of peace, love and unity. But it was a philosophy, it was a guiding principle and an organizing principle. We had Harambee, which was an organizing principle. Now what has happened today in Kenya, we do not have an organizing principle. We don't know whether we are center-right, center-left. We don't know whether we are socialist. We don't know whether we are capitalist. We just are a bit too random. And what that does in a society is a police force then does not have a moral compass. And I'll give you where we lack a moral compass. In other countries, the speed guns on the highway are put at certain points and you are told you are approaching a speed gun. Okay? In Kenya, they hide in trees like monkeys and ambush you and tell you, ta-da! You have a speeding ticket. You get, because they feel like they are enemies of the public. So they are always trying to trap you, you see. So those are the things that need to be addressed, in my opinion.
All right, now, Honorable Mutambu.
Allow me to differ a little bit with Mark on a few issues, and I agree with him on one aspect of the uniform. I being a Mukamba, and you know Kambas and colors.
They love colors.
I will agree with him on the colors.
Yellow,
yes, I am not for the color. That one I agree totally with him. But there's something else I totally differ with him. I will get a police officer is someone who is offering service out there. The reason why I want to give out service is for a reason. Number one, and I repeat, number one is what I get. Right? Before you negotiate anything, you negotiate your salary. And if my pay is not good, then I will not give good services. If you give a fundi bad pay, they will not build your house nicely.
Chances are they'll compromise the quality of the work they give.
Those others. So if we don't pay our police officers well, or if we do not take care of them in a nice manner, then they will not have a good morale. So giving them house allowance, to me, is 100% a tick.
Okay, that is a tick. But Mheshimiwa, allow me to pause you there, because you say that based on their pay that they're likely to get better manners. Let's go to members of parliament, and you've been a member of parliament. Their pay has not necessarily reflected good manners in terms of them not stealing from the coffers.
You know, I will not defend any member of parliament, but I'll talk about myself. Actually, I don't know whether I have stolen a coin.
But you see,
I'm trying to answer your question directly.
Okay.
I don't know whether I have stolen a coin from government coffers. On the contrary, I've ended up spending, and my bank manager will tell you, before I went to politics, my account was reading some zeros. Before I left, it was reading negative. What does that tell you? It is now I am regaining my powers. financial powers.
And that is fantastic,
Mheshimiwa.
Mheshimiwa. You know why? You know why?
I was putting money into politics. I did not have chance to steal. I don't know about other members. Let me not talk about other people.
And that's fantastic. You've given that example, Mheshimiwa.
I can also tell you this. The money I was being paid, and I'm not saying that members of parliament are underpaid. The money I was being paid, I did not even see the payslip myself, right? Why? Because every weekend, let me tell you, the culture we have created in this country for politicians, it is so bad that you do not want intervention to that. And what I would advise to you, my advice to all of three of you, don't try getting into politics.
Okay, because it's a dirty game. But, allow me to
I want to tell you, members of parliament, actually, when you look at the constituency levels, the only development you see is from members of parliament, the CDF money. That is the only thing you see in the counties or in the constituencies. So let me say, members of parliament don't steal.
Okay, and I want to challenge you on that because I want to challenge you on that. You've used a good example that the fact that your account is reading negative did not mean that you stole from the coffers. Meaning, even if we paid the police better money, does not necessarily mean we've addressed the issue of them being corrupt.
This is the problem here, the difference between a politician and a police officer. I have about 100, 200,000 people behind me, and who thinks and believes that Mheshimiwa should take care of our problems. The only thing the police officer does is to take care of your security. Period. And the police officer, when he wakes up, he makes sure you don't steal. He makes sure you don't go the other side of the law. Period. Okay, so but when I wake up, somebody whose the wife has given birth, they want me to pay for the maternity fee. Somebody whose children has been or child has been sent home, they want me to help in the school fees. Okay. So there's a difference. I need you to understand. So what I believe is once we pay our police well and we give them the good apparatus, including the houses, they will give us good services. Let us get us that.
Philip Magal, you don't have to comment on the uniform, but your thoughts on the reforms.
First of all, I will take Mheshimiwa's advice not to join politics with a pinch of salt. The reason being that since I elected my MP was a primary school teacher, he has since added 2 more wives. He's moved to Karen, and he has about 3 Land Cruisers that he drives around with.
And those are the 3 that you know. He probably has more in other places.
And 3 or 4 policemen about him all the time, meaning that his security is tight. On police uniform, of course, the president tried to justify it by saying that it would increase their visibility. But my worry is that it might have a contrary effect. You know, we are used to policemen. We know how they dress. So if I see a man in blue tomorrow, I might just, think he's one of those G4S guys and end up disobeying a lawful order from a law enforcement officer.
From a law enforcer.
Yes. Secondly, we are hoping that these changes are going to go deeper than just the uniform. We know that there are several issues that have been highlighted about the police and have been our main concern. One is corruption. Police have been ranked the most corrupt institution in this country since that survey began. It's never changed. And we know that, we are hoping that these new changes bring about a stop to that demand for 50 shillings whenever I'm stopped by the police at a traffic point. Secondly, we've had issues with human rights. The police have been known to disregard our rights. They have been known to use excessive force, especially when dealing with demonstrators and other Kenyans. We saw that hardly 8 months ago during the last general elections. Another thing has been competence and professionalism. We are complaining about the crime levels in this country. The police hardly solve any crime. You can see today we are discussing about Obando, and the main issue is the main question was, is the DCI, are the police doing enough to investigate this matter? And this is a high-profile case. What about those small cases where a woman has been mugged on the street and so on and so forth? Those are the things we need to address. Of course, there's also, on the other hand, of course, there's also their welfare. We know our police are poorly paid, we know they are poorly resourced, and we hope that will be addressed. I don't think an increment of 8,000 is that much, and I don't think it would have any impact in improving their professionalism or reducing corruption. We want to see real changes, not just cosmetic touches here and there.
Okay, and allow me now to be a bit of the devil's advocate. I don't like that term, but for want of a better term, just to defend the police, because they do not take bribes on their own. It is a symbiotic, relationship with those who are giving the bribe. So, Mheshimiwa, as much as we add that money, corruption in this country is not something that we can say is just down to the police. It is literally in almost every office you go to a point where if you park your car, okay, maybe for you as Mheshimiwa, maybe you don't have those issues. But if I go to town and I park my car somewhere, the watchman who is paid to, just guard something else there, just by virtue of him showing me where to park, expects that I will give him something. And I even sometimes feel the pressure to do that. Not because he has done anything, but it's just the culture and the society that we're in.
The question is, why don't you stop it? Why do you give?
I'm not saying I do.
Why do you feel obliged to give?
Because it's already a cultural thing that we have.
That is what we need to do now. Why do I give the police that bribe is asking? So who is the main contributor here? It is the person who is giving. The giver and the givee, or the takee, for lack of any better word. The person who is at wrong here? Who is the lesser devil? The person who is giving and the one who is taking. Who is the lesser devil here? Why am I offering that? To give. Actually, in most cases,
the salaries will not solve
I have analyzed this. The most people, in the most cases, it is the person who has been caught on the wrong who start by offering. Kamata hii kidogo, uniachilie. It is you who start the negotiation. The police is ready with his book to write the offense. And he says, so who starts?
So meaning the salary will not solve that.
Take the police, I will not put, actually I'll give police 70%, no, 30% of the blame. 70% of the blame is the person who is giving. Why are we giving? Why don't we say, I am not going to give? Actually, I like what happened yesterday. I was reading through the offenses, traffic offenses.
Yes,
and it is highlighted there how much I'm supposed to pay.
The instant fines.
If you get me for not carrying my driving license, why should I give you 1,000 and it is 500 shillings in court? Give me the 500 shillings. I'm contributing to the tax and I'm building my nation. So why are we giving the police? That's the question we need to ask ourselves. And because the police found themselves there, people offering, when people go to the churches and you're giving ovaries in envelopes, you put 1 million, 10 million. I'll open mine tomorrow because people will come and give 1 million. But if you don't, they'll give only the 2 cents, like that woman in the Bible. You will have no these churches across the country. We will have the decent churches. So we are the people to blame, not the police.
And to emphasize this, it is not a police problem, it is a societal problem. And it's insane. And I'll give you an example. The other day, the MCAs treated us to a show when they were trying to kick out their speaker. What were they saying? Umetunyima trips. No, my question is, your title says MCA. Okay? You are a county assembly representative. Your job is to legislate, not to go to Israel to watch how flowers grow. But your main concern is what? I want trips. This is the problem. You have MCAs, the grapevine has it, who refused to pass the budget because they want to be given 1.5 million shillings each. You understand? So it is not just a police problem. It is not a civil servant problem. It is the fact that Kenyan society is rotten and no one wants to face up to the idea that we actually need to change as a people. The reason why even we're in trouble with the tax is not that we can't afford it. Let me tell you, if you look at Nairobi City as an example, you look at how many skyscrapers are coming up without a mortgage, because we only have 20,000 mortgages. How many skyscrapers are coming up? If you look at how many luxury homes are filled where the rent is 300,000-400,000 shillings, you realize that there is a lot of black market money in this country. Why? Because we avoid paying tax, one, and two, we are so corrupt, and what we do with our corrupt money is even worse. So what's happening in this country? What we need to understand is this. Number one, the tax is not going to go anywhere because we as a country are full of thieves, and when we budget, we don't budget to save money. So we have to face that reality. You cannot be eating lobster and expect that your money will last until the end of the month. On the 20th you will have to borrow. So this is the 20th of the month for Kenya, and we will borrow 600 billion and we will pay that tax. So what Kenyans need to stop telling the president, Mr. President, don't remove the tax. Please tell your people to stop stealing our money. That is what needs to happen. If they stop stealing our money, there'll be more money in this economy, and we'll be able to pay that. So,
Bichachi, you're saying that the issue of taxes, 16% VAT on petroleum products is not the issue.
It's not the issue.
How the money is spent. Philip Bagal, do you agree with that?
Of course, it is how the money is spent, but then again, it is how the money is gathered. You know, if we give the government so much, what is it doing? It should first of all tell us what it's been doing with what it has been gathering. We cannot just add it more money. Remember, this government has borrowed more than any other government since independence. It has tripled our national debt in 5 years. The government, it seems like the government can borrow without a limit, and the government can tax us without a limit. It from both ends. Okay. We cannot accept that. It must first of all account for the little it has before it goes for any other monies from any other source.
There's a point there I want Kenyans to understand. When we say this government has borrowed more than any other government, we need to understand it is this government which is implementing the new constitution, which came with a lot of demand, including the 47 counties. You remember the famous Mutabu bill, which every Kenyan rejected? I saw it coming, and I told them, if you don't reduce these monsters, because we created 47 monsters, 47 counties, this is going to affect us badly. I told Kenyans, and I was called all the kind of names. Today, we need to find the money to govern charity and to some. We need to have this money to give to our governors. And so Kenyans need to understand what we are going through, we are taking a dose of our own medicine.
And that is why the most critical thing for every Kenyan, let me tell you, focusing on the 16% is focusing on a mosquito bite on your leg when you're suffering with malaria in your entire body. The malaria of this country is this, and let's be very clear. We have a county assembly of Nairobi, which has received, county assembly, not the county assembly, which has received 1 billion shillings every year for the last 5 years to develop the county assembly. What has it developed? The county assembly, the only thing it seems to foster is foolishness. And this is the kind of thing that I'm talking about. For as long as we allow corruption to continue, and corruption is in small things. Corruption is when MCAs...
Mark, when you say we allow corruption, what do you mean? How do we allow corruption? We've spoken about corruption here now for eons.
Can I tell you where corruption starts? When you have a bachelor's degree, you've gone to school, you've read, and you have a decent IQ. Then you go on a queue and you vote for IT2. That is corruption at the first instance. Because how does a clever person vote for someone who's less clever than them to represent them?
Okay,
that is, even when you're dealing with chamas, if we were to form a chama, the 4 of us, we would consider the cleverest and most competent of us to lead. But if you look at even the quality of debate in parliament, some parliamentarians who cannot even read a statement, they have prepared themselves, okay? And they're not even old, so you cannot say it's their eyes that are failing. Some of them are 35 and musicians. They cannot read. So if that is the person we elected, isn't that corruption? Because corruption is not just about money. Corruption is about changing what is the norm to something that is abnormal. And that's what Kenya does all the time. It is abnormal for us to vote in politicians and expect them to steal from us. It is abnormal for us to change my vote based on 500 shillings I have received. That is number one. Number two, when this politician gets into office, there is no accountability. What is the accountability? They can do anything, and then the next time you'll vote for them because he is Mtuitu, you know, Mtuetu. And that's the problem. So we as a society are solely responsible for the behavior of our MCAs, for the behavior of our governors.
Gentlemen, we are running out of time, so I'll need your closing comments. And one thing that I find that's running through our conversation, whether we're talking about the police, whether we're talking about, the VAT, whether we're talking about our leadership, is that dreaded dragon of corruption that we must slay. But your closing comments, Mheshimiwa.
It's quite unfortunate because I'm going to close with Mark. And I want to tell him that I read a book called Why a Student Work for 6 Students. I read that book, and I would encourage him to read it.
I've read it.
Yeah, I've read it. Why Students Work for 6 Students. You don't have to elect somebody because he went to university. You need to elect somebody because he is wise. We need wise leaders, not educated leaders. You may be educated and you have nothing in your head apart from what has been injected by your professor or your teacher. And when you do not have leadership skills. Leadership skills and leadership is, education skills and leadership are two different things. You can have a professor who is messing you in the country. We had more, you will not even gone to university. And he ran this country for 24 years. And I like what he said. He emphasized on one thing: peace, love, and unity. And we could feel that love among ourselves. When we left it over, it's a story for another day.
Things fell apart.
So, but my take on today's paper, because we are here to analyze the papers, it is quite unfortunate that we are giving Obado all the hard time in this country. I think we need to focus more on other matters. On terms of police reforms, I totally agree with what the president is doing. There are questions whether it is constitutional or unconstitutional. That is a debate for another day. But the uniform, I am a Mukamba.
Philip Magali, your closing
First
comments.
of all, I would like to take issue with what Mheshimiwa was saying. Yes, education is important, and that is the difference between Kenya and Germany. That is the difference between Uganda and Japan. Education is important. Education is key. Secondly, corruption. We cannot justify the borrowing on the fact that we have a new constitution. How much money has been lost at the county government, at the devolved unit level? A lot of money. It is theft, it is pilferage, it is corruption, it is tax evasion that we need to deal with. And that brings me to my last point, which is the 16% tax. To me, it is a lot of money. I see people walk to work every day just to save 10 bob or to save 20 shillings. I see people go without lunch just to save a 50 shilling note. That might not seem so much for the 10% that live above poverty line, but I would like to challenge the parliament to look the president in the eye this time around and call him bluff. He doesn't have veto powers. They should send the bill has been sent back to them. They shouldn't listen to what Muturi will tell them next week. They should look Muturi in the eye. They should look the president in the eye and reject that 16% VAT.
Mark Bichachi, your closing comments very briefly, please.
Mr. President, do the country a favor. Ask your parliamentarians, instead of scrapping 16% VAT, to come up with laws that will tighten the noose on the corrupt, to come up with the laws that will help the common mwananchi be kept away from the rising cost of transport, because the 16% tax is not 50 shillings increase in transport. That's not fair. And the price of flour. Number 3, Mr. President, you are doing a good job with your DCI arresting these people. Arrest even more. In fact, we've cried for enough big fish. Please arrest some small fish. Arrest that person who's giving 50 shillings to the cop. Arrest that person who's trying to subvert justice in the village. That is how you're going to transform this country. Mr. President, do us a favor. Do not change the 16% tax. Just change where it's spent on, and create a council that advises you on matters finance. That is my prayer to the president.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. That's the week that was. That is Mark Bichachi, who's a communication strategist, Philip Magal, an advocate, and last but not least, Honorable Joe Mutambo, who's a former member of parliament for Mwingi Central. Thank you for joining us this morning to analyze